In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, welcome to another session of Finding God. We are still on chapter 51, which is Jonah, Surah Yunus, and we'll be finishing the last third of the chapter today. So far, it's been a discussion about what is right and what is wrong. It has been a discussion about belief, whether you whether the people of the time believed in Muhammad, peace be upon him, or not, whether they questioned him or not, and how to answer them back. And then the argument was brought together in the second third. And today, the last third, which is from verse 71 till the end, around 100 and something, it's about certain stories of the past with Noah and Moses and a few other prominent people who have existed before. Also, I'd like to say that it's the last few days of Ramadan. So, for whoever is fasting and whoever's praying and for whoever's staying up late at night to pray, I hope all that you want and all that you pray for is given to you. Uh, and to those who don't have the opportunity, I hope next time you can, and even if you can't or choose not to, I hope that God's mercy opens its arms towards you. Because I always, as rational as I may be, I always try to believe that my God is the most merciful because He is, and ever giving, and there's a right time for everything, and there's a right space for everything, and I have that faith in the Lord. And if you don't see what's going to happen, because we can't see what's going to happen, faith is one of our bedrocks, one of our pillars, which has existed throughout history, and it exists even today for the non-religious folk. They just believe in something; they just don't call it God. Even when you are doing clinical scientific research or physics or astrophysics, there is always an element of faith which motivates us to continue looking and to continue going forward. Even when the data may be against us or the evidence may be against us, there's something in us that makes us hope and have faith and take a leap of faith, as they say. So, for those of you who may not um, dabble in faith or embrace it as it is, I would seriously recommend that we already do that, and perhaps consider it that way. And for those who do, but sometimes feel a crisis of faith, because we do feel that too all the time. If you are feeling a crisis of faith, or if you're struggling with your iman, as they say in Arabic or Urdu, um, practice, practice it. The more we do, the better it gets. So the more you pray, the closer you get. It isn't, oh, I prayed one time, but I prayed for 2 hours and I'm close to God. No, no. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So if you want to, I have friends from some parts of the world in the Middle East who will be fasting for the first time in their lives. I have some friends who stopped fasting and will be fasting this year. And the idea is never to discourage them in, oh, well, you should have fasted earlier. No, the idea is to always encourage them and say, yes, try it. And if you like it, maybe you can do it next year too. So that would be my suggestion to all those, whether you live your life devoid of faith and are purely rational, because I'm sufficiently rational, so I have a lot of friends who are like that. And if you are suffering through a crisis of faith, or if you're struggling, also try dabbling in that. And just practice makes perfect. So, what's it doing? Yeah, I have to arrange it in this manner. So again, week 2 of trying the Quran digitally, and I'm glad that I'm able to do so. Is it moving? Yes, it is. So last week we were here. There we go. Verse 17, and I'll continue from there on. So, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, Bismillah upon him. A brief enjoyment in this world, it says, and then unto us will be their return, then we shall make them taste the severest torment because they used to disbelieve in God and his messengers and his verses. And then it goes, and recite to them the news of Noah, when they said to his people, O my people, if my stay with you and my reminding you of the verses, I just use verses instead of ayat, of God, is hard on you, then I put my trust in God. So devise your plot, you and your partners, and let not your plot be in doubt for you. Oof. Well, that's a challenge. Then pass your sentence on me and give me no respite. Wow, that's a challenge. So if you're not going to listen to what I'm saying about God, well, I'll trust my God, and you make sure that your plan is good enough. That's more of a challenge from Noah. But obviously, he would have felt lionized or stronger in his position because he is supported by the Lord Almighty. But if you turn away from accepting my doctrine, oh, sorry, then I put my trust, so devise your plot. Yeah, I said it right. But if you turn away from accepting my doctrine of Islam to worship none but God, then no reward have I asked of you. My reward is only from God, and I have been commanded to be of the Muslims, those who submit to God's will. Now, there are people, sane, sensible, reasonable people, who would say, well, there were no Muslims at that time. How can Noah be praying this? Fair enough. In this book, we tend to believe, it's the religious belief in Islam, that all spirits are born Muslim. So what we call Islam today is believed to be the doctrine that has existed since mankind has existed. That is what we believe. So even Adam in Islam is said to be a prophet of Islam. All of the prophets that have come have, in our perspective, in our framing, are said to be Muslims. That is why a lot of Muslims today don't say somebody converted to Islam, they say somebody reverted to Islam. Now, that's a statement that I haven't fully taken on board yet, because I don't see the point of saying this, because I don't see the point of dismissing or diminishing what somebody did in the past. I see it as a celebration. Oh, you've joined Islam. Great, wonderful. I don't like the point of convert or revert. No, I just say you've joined Islam. I think that's a holistic and more inclusive way of preaching the religion. But in Islam, that was my perspective. Okay, I say join rather than convert, revert. But the perspective in Islam is that all spirits are Muslim, and then they revert back to it. So, in that regard, the message that was coming to Noah, to Jesus, to Abraham, to Moses, to all these great religious religious actors that has existed throughout history, is the message of Islam. So, when I have been commanded to be of the Muslims, that means of those people. They denied him, but we delivered him and those with him in the ship, and we made the generations replacing one after another, while we drowned those who belied our verses. Then see what was the end of those who were warned. Interesting. So you see, this is the Islamic perspective. Now, in the Bible or in the Old Testament, there are different perspectives. There may be other books with different perspectives. In Islam, this is what we believe, that it was for the Muslims and Noah was bringing it. Because Noah was, after Adam, there's only 12 or 13 generations between Adam and Noah. So in the Abrahamic religions, Noah is meant to be very, very early on. I don't know how many thousands of years on, but very, very early on. Then after him, we sent messengers to their people. They brought them clear proofs, but they would not believe what they had already rejected beforehand. Thus, we sealed the hearts of the transgressors, those who disbelieve in the oneness of God and disobey. Now, this is true even today. Let's take climate change, or let's take abortion, or let's take immigration, or let's take energy utilization, or let's take distribution of wealth. I have been involved in, and I have been witness to many political debates, and you can bring all the evidence from your side, and even if the other person's evidence is faulty or weak, you can't convince them. It is very rare for the opposition to say, you know what you just said convinced me. I'm going to go on your side. Now, I agree with you on whatever the topic is. But it's always contested and divided. So the evidence argument works for some but doesn't work for all. Then after them we sent Moses and Aaron to Pharaoh and his chiefs with our verses. But they behaved arrogantly and were mujrimun, which means disbelievers, sinners, polytheists, folk. So when came to them the truth from us, they said, "This is indeed clear magic." Now, if some of us believe that we are very far beyond that, we really aren't. Human nature really hasn't changed that much. We just call it a different name, or it's lies, or it's fallacy, or it's fabricated. Some people might even say it's magic or trickery. We believe what we want to believe. And to that I say, fair enough, that's human nature, but try to open yourself up to scrutiny and see how valid your belief is. And I say this ever so strongly to Muslims, because if this we believe to be the final word of God, then it should be open to scrutiny all the time, rather than, oh no, it's our final word and we shall not have any discussions after this. No, 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 no. You have to be open to the conversation completely, everlastingly, and all the time. That is how it will get renewed and even stronger when you can defend your argument against scrutiny. What scrutiny does, it iteratively gets rid of the extra fluff, the useless bits. It gets rid of that, and the only core argument remains. So you have to be able to do that. Moses said, "Say you this about the truth when it comes to you? Is this magic?" But the magicians will never be successful. They said, "Have you come to us to turn us away from that faith we found our fathers following, and that you too may have greatness in the land? We are not going to believe you too." So it was Moses and Aaron. And if you recall from a few weeks, maybe a month or so ago, when Moses requested God, "Please send Aaron with me, he is my brother," and so forth. So that's why. And Pharaoh said, "Bring me every well-versed sorcerer." Now we know the story, but see, it's interesting that God chooses to repeat the story multiple times. And every time, the story is placed slightly differently. Its framing is slightly different. So we just start in the middle. Well, and then we said Moses, and Moses said this. It just starts from the middle. It's referral. It's like we refer to comedy today, or politics today, or some global or local event that's happening. We just say, well, it's like the British weather, isn't it? Because everybody knows it rains in England all the time, apart from 1 week of sunshine. So it's a referral now, because God has established Moses' story in the previous books and in the Quran. So now it's just a reference. And when the sources came, Moses said to them, "Cast down what you want to cast." So that just means do your spells. Then, when they had cast down, Moses said, "What you have brought is sorcery. God will surely make it of no effect. Verily, God does not set right the work of al-mufsidun." Again, another word, evildoers, corruptors. Now, this repeats itself, as you know. "And God will establish and make apparent the truth by his words, however much the mujrimun may hate it." And mujrimun is criminals, disbelievers, polytheists, sinners. Now, these are words, I don't have to explain them again and again, but I'll just use them as they are. See, they become a point of reference. If somebody has been seeing these videos for the last year and a half, these words keep repeating, and now they're like, "Oh, mujrimun, oh, mufsidun, oh, zalimun, oh, muttaqeen." Oh, I know what these mean. Yeah. But none believed in Moses except the offspring of his people, because of the fear of Pharaoh. The fear of Pharaoh and his chiefs, lest they should persecute them. And verily, Pharaoh was an arrogant tyrant on the earth. He was indeed one of the musrifun. Now, another word, polytheist, sinner, transgressor, those who give up the truth and follow the evil and commit all kinds of great sins. So there's all these words, and I don't need to explain them again. But I like how it said, because of the fear of Pharaoh and his chiefs, lest they should persecute them. So the validity of the logic is not there. It's the fear of violating that logic. It's a violation fear. It's not, oh, I believe in it because it's true. It's a fear of violation. That is one of the primary reasons why I encourage people to always scrutinize every single belief that they have in their religion, in their politics, in wherever they stand, in personal relationships, about work, about who you are as a person, about your health, whatever. Scrutinize every belief and question it so you can strengthen it. You expose gold to fire and it comes out shinier. You expose iron to fire, and it becomes steel. It removes the impurities. So you have to put your beliefs to scrutiny all the time. And if you happen to be a tyrant, what have we understood about tyranny so far? It more often than not has some semblance of insecurity or weakness. That's why it's exposing. Real confidence is silent, it's quiet, it's untouched, like the oceans, like the mountains. But if you're a tyrant and you're forcing people or maneuvering them through fear, then there's something weak on your side. The truth isn't on your side then, because the truth is self evident. Lies need to be forced down. And Moses said, "O my people, if you have believed in God, then put your trust in Him if you are Muslims." And here, as explained further earlier, Muslims, those who submit to God's will, or Allah's will, because that's the way, and that's the name we use, but God's will. So in Islam, that's what we believe. If we submit ourselves to God's will, that's what it means to be a Muslim. But then we get to define in our religion what God's will actually is. So you can't just say, "Oh, I submit to that God's will." Well, that's not the will that we have defined in so much detail in our book. They said, "In God we put our trust. Our Lord, make us not a trial for the folk who are zalimun." Do not make them overpower us. And save us by your mercy from the disbelieving folk. We should pray that even today. It's not that the disbelievers are coming after you with pitchforks and knives and swords, but they're coming at you through the internet. They're coming at you through media discourse. They're coming at you through dialogue. They're coming at you as soon as you leave the house through a billboard. Evil or disbelief is all around us. So this prayer is very, very useful, and it should be continued even today. And we revealed to Moses and his brother, saying, "Provide dwellings for your people in Egypt, and make your dwellings as places for your worship, and perform as-salat," iqamat as-salat. As-salat means prayer, "and give glad tidings to the believers." So pray and tell them that it's all going to be okay. Now, prayer has this unique power to do this on its own. Prayer can tell you it's all going to be okay. I witness it. Billions of Muslims witness it every single day. So, but it's said here that pray and tell them it's going to be okay. And Moses said, "Our Lord, you have indeed bestowed upon Pharaoh," I'm here at the bottom, "upon Pharaoh and his chiefs splendor and wealth in the life of this world, our Lord, that they may lead men astray from your path. Our Lord, destroy their wealth and harden their hearts, so that they will not believe until they see the painful taunt." Oof. Wow. I don't think this is motivated by revenge or anger. It's more motivated out of disappointment and grief, because Moses tried to convince Pharaoh multiple times. But the argument here is, well, you've given them everything in the world and they're leading people astray from your path. So how about you lead them with all you've given them in the world? No, not even that. How about you destroy their wealth and you harden their hearts, and only on the day of judgment will they realize, "My God, I was wrong." So that's the invocation here. And God said, "Verily, the invocation of you both is accepted." So you both keep to the straight way, which means keep doing good deeds and preaching God's message with patience, and follow not the path of those who know not, which means the truth, which is to believe in the oneness of God and also to believe in the reward of God's paradise. So the brackets you can read on its own, because it breaks the rhythm of what I'm trying to say, but you see the point. Sometimes I have to go into detail. And we took the children of Israel across the sea. Now that, as I've mentioned maybe 7-8 times before in my reading of the Quran, the parting of the sea is one of my favorite moments of human history. I wasn't there in flesh, perhaps I was in spirit. And I would be there in spirit, because it's one of my favorite people, Moses, following the law, following the rulings or guidance of my favorite entity in the entire universe, my Lord, and parting something that we don't normally part. It's just so, the splendor is so incredible. And I've seen it in Ten Commandments. I've seen it in Exodus, Gods and Kings. I've seen it in Prince of Egypt. So those are depictions of it. But I promise you, I would love to see it in person. There at that point and just see the sea spreading and standing up. Now, there are multiple perspectives about whether it actually opened up or just simply parted. Either way, it's a sea that stopped being a sea and gave way to land. Oh. With his hosts followed them in oppression and enmity, till when drowning overtook him, he said, I believe that none has the right to be worshipped but he, God, in whom the children of Israel believe, and I am one of the Muslims. It's very interesting. In Islam, we believe at that moment, for Pharaoh, the truth finally came before his eyes, and he realized, okay, I'm on the wrong path. We believe that you can always criticize it. There's nothing wrong with criticizing things. You can always criticize it. But this is what we believe. On our deathbeds, or right before Malak al-Maut, or the angel of death, comes face to face with us, or we kick the bucket, if you don't believe in religion. There are things that we see. Some people say your whole life flashes before your eyes. Some people say, I saw the light. Some people start seeing the parents and the loved ones who have passed on, and they just start seeing them days or weeks in advance because their time has come. At that moment, the positions that we've held on the earth start shifting because they're in the past. And we start saying, well, you know what? Yeah, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there is a God. Maybe me being the Pharaoh went to my head. And I thought, well, I am the thing here. Sorry, I'm not going to swear because it's Ramadan and I'm reading the Quran. But maybe I am the it, what people look for. So confronted moments before drowning and death, he realizes, oh, maybe I'm not that thing that I thought I was. Now you believe while you refused to believe before, and you were one of the mufsidun. So this day we shall deliver your dead body out from the sea, that you may be a sign to those who come after you. And verily, many among mankind are heedless of our verses. That's true. Even today, and not just mankind, even in the nearly 2 billion, or whether it's 2 billion already, the billions of Muslims that exist on the earth, there are many who are still heedless to these verses, including myself. I am by no means even close to a great or good Muslim. We strive and we thrive and we work hard. But even I have enough confidence, but also guilt, to look at myself and say, well, no, you have a long way to go. So it proves what the Quran is saying in any case. And indeed, we settled the children of Israel in an honorable dwelling place, Sham and Misr, which is the Middle East, Syria and Egypt, and provided them with good things, and they differed not until the knowledge came to them. Verily, God will judge between them on the day of resurrection in that in which they used to differ. I'm here. So, if you, O Muhammad, are in doubt concerning that which we have revealed unto you, that is, that your name is written in the Torah and in the Gospel, then ask those who are reading the book, the Torah and the Gospel before you. Verily, the truth has come to you from your Lord, so be not of those who doubt it. Now, once I finished the Quran in my reading, because it will take probably till the end of this year, if not the mid of next, then when I start covering the Torah, I will revert back to this. I will come back to this and say, oh, his name is mentioned, or no, his name isn't mentioned, and then we can discuss it further. Right now, I don't have the authority to discuss it. And if I did, some people would always come to question me, and I don't have the authority yet, but I will, and when I do, I will discuss it openly. And be not one of those who belie in the verses of God, for then you shall be one of the losers. Thank you for putting it in terms that we understand today. You're such a loser, so thank you for saying it that way. Truly, those against whom the word, wrath of your Lord, has been justified will not believe. Interesting. So it's already justified, that's why they don't believe. or it's in their fate, or it's in their nature. Um, I think when we start putting the time component into it, it muddles things up. Um, but I've explained the God perspective before, because when God sees, he sees a dot, but what we see is a line. So we have to go through time. But for some entity that is outside of the space time continuum, for them, it is all happening at once. So for them, it is written. So it is justified, and they will not believe, even if every sign should come to them until they see the painful torment. See, now that's just sad. I feel sad for those folk, even without knowing them, and even with knowing some of them, if if they don't believe, even if every sign should come to them. In Urdu, we say, akal pe parda pad gaya, which means their mind has been clouded, or their hearts have been sealed, or something in them is preventing them from embracing something new. Um, and there is enough rational discussion about it for them to say, you know what, this does make sense. But I was making an observation to my mother a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying, when man makes a religion, and I've said it here as well, when man makes a religion, it's always polytheistic. There's multiple gods. And whenever it comes through a book or through a messenger, it's always one person. There's always one God. It's very interesting. And then the other thing that we see in people is they tend to stick to the religion of their forefathers. There's always, oh, well, my dad believed this, so I believed. And then my son will believe it, or my child will believe it. Or my mother believed this, therefore I believed. As much as I love parents and value them and cherish them, when it comes to belief in God, in Islam, we place God above parents. God is the only entity, and Prophet Muhammad, that we place above our parents. In that, you may consider scrutinizing what your parents believed. It may benefit you. Well, maybe my father was wrong about this belief. Let me learn on my own, because on the day of torment, on the day of judgment, it will be just you. You responsible for your beliefs. So you can't just say, well, my dad said so, and God will say, well, I gave you a mind. I gave you a brain. Did you have any way of thinking about it yourself? And here, was there any town, community that believed after seeing the punishment, and its faith at that moment saved it from the punishment? The answer is none, except the people of Jonah. Now his name comes. When they believed, we removed from them the torment of disgrace in the life of the present world and permitted them to enjoy for a while. Interesting. Now, there are other chapters which talk about Jonah in more detail, and then there are other religious books that talk about him in more detail. Sorry, I'm getting some Facebook messages, so I'm trying not to read them. There's so many things to read. That's why I'm being a bit distracted. But see, it's the people of Jonah, Yunus, when they believed, we removed from them the torment of disgrace in the life of the present world and permitted them to enjoy for a while. And had your Lord willed, those on earth would have believed, all of them together. So will you, O Muhammad, then compel mankind until they become believers? Very true. So that's a common argument. Well, if there's a God, why is there so much suffering? Well, if there's a God, why isn't everybody always happy? Well, has it ever occurred to you that everyone doesn't deserve to be happy? That happiness is something that has to be achieved and strived for and thrived in? It shouldn't be something that you're born with. And suffering is something that we have to go through for growth, for mindfulness, for humanity, for happiness, joy, self-actualization. Has that ever occurred to you? If everybody believed everything, and it was the same belief, politically or religiously or socially, what would be the point? Because if all believe the same, none believe the same. So the belief is just wiped out. It's a zero entity. It cancels itself out. There is no dialogue or growth. How does that differ us from angels who don't have free will, or animals who don't have enlightenment? It doesn't. So we are in the middle. We're angelic and we're animalistic. We're beastly and we're heavenly, right? So if God will, there we go. In our movies, Thanos can snap half of civilization out. You don't think our God who created the whole universe, could just say, everybody's going to believe. That's it. I'm happy. Cool. No, that's unnecessary. God, there's no purpose of this play that we're involved in on the earth if that were the case. We are here to negotiate through this and play through this and grow. It is not for any person to believe except by the leave of God, and he will put the wrath on those who are heedless. Now, those who can't believe and those who are heedless are two very distinct things. Heedless are those who listen and reject. Can't believe may be people who are not sufficiently exposed to it. That's a whole different story. That's not who we're talking about. In this verse, we're talking about it. But later, we're talking about heedless. Yeah, it's in the same verse. He will put the wrath on those who are heedless. And again, I explained the time perspective of when it was decided that they will not listen. It is in their makeup, but the information is being presented to them. They are given free will to change that genetic makeup, but they don't. Well, many do, but many don't. Say, behold all that is in the heavens and the earth, but neither verses nor warners benefit those who believe not. Wow. What a verse. I'm going to say it again. Say, behold all that is in the heavens and the earth, but neither verses nor warners benefit those who believe not. Ooh. Only God can write like this. I'm so awed by God. Then do they wait for anything? I'm bottom. Wait for anything save for a destruction like that of the days of the men who passed away before them? Say, wait then, I am too with you among those who wait. However, when Muhammad, peace be upon him, says that Muhammad is not waiting in fear, or maybe he is waiting in fear for us, for the people, for his followers, because he used to stay up all night crying for us. But he's not waiting like, oh my God, I've done something wrong, I will be destroyed. He's saying, I wait with you, and let's see what happens. We do that even today. I was discussing with a friend of mine just recently. We were talking about a football match that takes place on Monday, and she was saying one thing, and I said, well, my friends say another. Let's see what happens on Monday. So it's very interesting how the argument happens. Then, in the end, we save our messengers and those who believe. Thus, it is incumbent upon us to save the believers. Incumbent upon God. Imagine that. Incumbent upon God. Because God is a God of his word. God is not a hypocrite. God is not a bigot. God doesn't claim false things. God simply is. So when God says something, it is incumbent upon him to come through. Say, O Muhammad, O you mankind, if you are in doubt as to my religion, then know that I will never worship those whom you worship besides God, but I worship God who causes you to die, and I am commanded to be one of the believers. Thankfully, so am I. I'm grateful. And it is revealed to me, direct your face, O Muhammad, entirely towards the religion, Hanif, it says, Islamic monotheism, to worship none but God alone, and never be one of the mushrikun. I've explained it before. What was the whole bracket? Disbelievers, yes. And invoke not besides God any such, I'm here, that will neither profit you nor harm you, but if in case you did so, you shall certainly be one of the Zalimun. So it's a wrapping up, because I think these are the final few verses. So this is God's way of wrapping up the poetry, wrapping up the message. So it's saying, do not invoke another God. And if you do so, you will be one of the polytheists and wrongdoers. Self-explanatory. And if God touches you with harm, there is none who can remove it but he. And if he intends any good for you, there is none who can repel his favor, which he causes it to reach whomsoever of his slaves he wills. And he is the oft forgiving, the most merciful. This is true. If God wills ill of you, nothing can stop it. And if God wills good for you, nothing can stop it. And to seek God's will and God's favor, we believe and we have faith and we pray and we fast and we give charity, and we perform the pilgrimage and we believe in the oneness of God, and we're good to our parents, good to our siblings, good to our friends, good to people on the streets. And we don't lie and we don't steal. It's not really that difficult, if I say. Of course, certain things are harder, like praying 5 times a day, I find is easier than some other things because I don't do them sufficiently, and I'd like to. But defining a good character or being a good person, there are certain things that you follow, and you invariably end up becoming a good person. Those are quite doable, but we don't do them. Say, O you mankind, now truth, which is the Quran and the Prophet, has come to you from your Lord. So whosoever receives guidance, he does so for the good of his own self. And whosoever goes astray, he does so to his own loss. And I am not sent over you as a wakil, which means disposer of affairs, to oblige you for your guidance. It's the last verse. And O Muhammad, follow the revelation sent unto you, and be patient till God gives judgment, and he is the best of judges. This verse is very useful. Whosoever receives guidance, he does so for the good of his own self, and whosoever goes astray, he does so to his own loss. Receiving is different from perceiving. Receiving guidance means that you have some role in this. Perceiving guidance means something comes to you and you don't take action. Somebody's writing something. No. Why are you writing this? Oh, it's Twitch, that's why. So to receive means that you open the gates of your own heart, and to perceive means, oh, it's there, I saw it, but it didn't enter me. So receiving guidance is for your own good, and refusing guidance is for your own loss. That's the final message. But wow, 37 minutes. This brings me to the end of Jonah, Surah Yunus, chapter 51 in terms of revelation, chapter 10 in terms of arrangement. Took me 3 weeks to get through it, but we got through it. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a fantastic Friday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And for those who are fasting, may your fasts be easier. May your Ramadan go well. May your nightly prayers fulfill you and fill your heart and fill your soul. And all that you want in the world is given to you. I pray that from the core of my soul. So thank you, and have